Welcome to the Historic Preservation Review Board regular meeting. This is a citizen board appointed by the Town Council to interpret and uphold the Historic Preservation Ordinance, which is Article 8 of the Abingdon zoning ordinance that protects the historic district of Abingdon, which has been designated the Old and Historic District. Our aim on this board is to provide a positive bridge of support between property owners in the district and the design review process, so that we welcome you to today's meeting and celebrate our joint partnership in the historic district. We appreciate your interest and we encourage public participation also in our meeting. Your comments are important to our decision-making process. Anyone who is addressing the board will approach this podium here. Identify your first and last name and your mailing address, please. Roll call.
Mr. Boyd?
Here.
Mr. Anderson?
Here.
Mrs. Hartshorn?
Here.
Mrs. White?
Here.
And Mrs. Bunn.
Here.
All right, the first order of business is approval of the minutes of the August 2nd regular meeting of the review board. Do we have any comments or edits to make to those?
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes as presented.
A motion on the floor to approve the minutes as presented of the August 2nd regular meeting. Second?
I'll second.
Mr. Anderson seconds. Any comment? Okay.
Mr. Boyd?
Aye.
Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
Mrs. Hartshorn?
Aye.
Mrs. White?
Abstain.
And Mrs. Bunn.
Aye.
All right. So our first application for a certificate of appropriateness is a special use permit from Megan Muncie Collins of 129 East Main Street. Is she here? Yes.
So, request, Megan Muncie Collins, applicant, and Jerry Signs Incorporated representative, has requested approval of a certificate of appropriateness for a projecting/hanging sign. The signage will be hung over the town-owned brick sidewalk. The property is located at 129A East Main Street. The property is within the Old and Historic Zoning District, Sub-District 1.
Welcome.
You're fine.
Sorry. Background, Boho Collective will be moving into the Forget-Me-Not's former location and hanging their signage in the exact location and manner as Forget-Me-Not did. Some staff findings. The applicant is proposing to hang a non-illuminated rectangular shaped sign with concave corners. Proposed signage will have a black border, white background, black lettering, and a green foliage design beneath the business name. Overall dimensions for the proposed signage are 18 inches tall by 32 inches wide, equaling 4 square feet. And I was later notified by the representative that instead of aluminum, it would be HDU.
Correct.
And
My name
then,
is Maya. I'm with Jerry Signs. They changed it to CNC carved, so it'll be HDU instead of aluminum, and then it will be on the existing bracket that is already there instead of a pole.
the only couple of things I had left is since the proposed signage is hanging over the town-owned brick sidewalk, the bottom of the sign is to the ground, must measure 7 feet, so we've seen that before with other signs that have come in.
This one does?
Yeah.
Since it's the
then-
existing.
Yeah, and that was it for that. The applicant already filled in the other stuff that had to be amended, so
Okay.
if you have any
Yeah,
questions
you
for
can
them.
speak.
I was gonna say, if you guys have any questions, feel free to
Okay.
ask.
All right, so you say they've changed it from the metal material
Yes.
to what?
So it's gonna be CNC carved, so it's high density urethane. It's just a carved sign.
High density urethane?
Mhm.
Okay. I think we have those in the district.
Yeah, that's the
Mhm.
that's
Yeah,
the
those are
typical
most
one.
common.
That's what I thought.
Mhm.
Okay, all right. Do we have any public comment? All right, okay. How about any comments from the board or questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the application as presented.
Mr. Boyd moves to approve the application for the sign as presented.
And I'll second Mr. Boyd.
Mr. Anderson seconds Mr. Boyd. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Boyd,
Aye.
Mr. Anderson,
Aye.
Mrs. Hartshorn,
Aye.
Mrs. White,
Aye,
and Mrs. Blunt.
thank you.
Thank you.
It's a really pretty sign. And what's your business gonna do?
So they actually
sent She's this to Jerry us, Signs.
but we're with Jerry
Oh.
Signs.
Oh, you're Jerry
They
Signs,
just
that's
sent it
right.
to us, and this is what we have starting out, but they're already in
It
there.
looks good.
Okay, yeah, good.
It's gonna be, they have a other location in Bristol on Main Street. It's
Uh-huh.
a clothing store.
A clothing store, okay, so pretty much the same thing.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes
Okay, the second application is from Charlotte Sutherland, and it is for another sign application. And while you come up, we'll give the staff report on that.
Requ- Request Charlotte Sutherland applicant and Jerry Signs representative has requested approval of a certificate of permanence for freestanding signage. The signage will be placed in front of the structure on the property. The property is located at 306 Depot Square Southwest, and the property is within the old and historic zoning districts of District 3. Some background. The Abington Depot currently is utilized as an incubator. The Abington Depot was built in 1909 and has been owned by the town of Abington since 1982. There is an existing metal L-shaped post painted black at the site showing where existing signage was before. In addition to the existing metal L-shaped post painted black, there are two wooden freestanding sign structures with signage for two other businesses located with inside the Abington Depot. The two wooden freestanding sign structures and their accompanying signage was approved by the HPRB within the last year. So you can see there's one for 304 Depot Square and 308 Depot Square that the board has seen previously within this last year. Some staff findings. The applicant proposes to hang a non-illuminated freestanding sign on an existing metal L-shaped post in the front yard of the property. The sign material will be metal and be circular in shape. The dimension of the circular sign will be 24 inches in diameter, or 3.14 square feet. The background color of the sign will be off-white with gold used for the border and lettering. As I said before, there is existing signage for 304 Depot Square and 308 Depot Square that has been previously approved by the HPRB.
Right, okay, welcome.
Thank you.
Please tell us your name.
Charlotte Sutherland, and the name of my little business is Victoria Haven Boutique.
All right. And it's going into the depot, old
Yes.
depot building
Yes,
next to
it
the
is.
bar photography and
Yes,
Mr. Signer's.
yes, I'm in the center.
Okay. All right, anything you want to say, any further things?
No, I don't think so. I was out at Jerry Signs today, and we did, and I don't think it was included in there, but she said they would be doing some type of little illumination, just for lighting at night of the sign, out of the materials, but it's gonna be in very good taste.
Okay.
Well, that kind of changes your application though, a little bit, doesn't it?
So that you would have to come back for illumination, depending on where it is.
Well, we won't come back, cause I've been waiting for 2 months.
No, they can approve the sign and everything. It's just the illumination, you'd have to come back.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, you just have to come back for the illumination.
Okay,
The sign we
okay.
can take care of today.
Okay, that's perfect then,
Yeah.
yes, I don't mind to do that at all.
Okay, so we just have the sign to approve.
Yeah.
Yes,
Which is before us here.
yes.
Okay. Any public comment? How about any questions from the board? Staff report, question? All right, I'll entertain a motion then.
I move to approve the sign as presented.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor by Ms. Hartshorn to approve the sign as
Okay.
presented.
Okay.
Okay, Ms. Bund seconds that
Thank you.
motion. Roll call.
Mr. Boyd,
Aye.
Mr. Anderson,
Aye.
Mr. Hartshorn,
Aye.
Mrs. White,
Aye,
and Mrs. Blunt.
Aye.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. All right, the third one is Scott and Donna Siegel, 136 Valley Street Northwest, appropriateness, a certificate of appropriateness for exterior changes. We'll have the staff report.
So the request from Scott and Donna Siegel, owner/applicant, have requested approval of a certificate of appropriateness to replace the existing gray asphalt shingle roof, specifically the portion over the front porch. The property is located at 136 West Valley Street, and the property is within the old and historic zoning district, sub-district 2. Some background.
Thank you.
The 1.5-story, 3-bay brick craftsman/bungalow style dwelling, according to a February 2020 reconnaissance survey conducted by DHR, was constructed around 1920. The dwelling possesses good architectural integrity, retaining its overall massing and few historic period windows. The dwelling does fall into Abington's Historic District's period of significance, 1788 to 1936, making the resource contributing. However, an empty lot can be seen on the 1928 Sanborn map, where 136 West Valley Street is currently located. So it's highly plausible, given the style of the building, even though the dates may contradict. It was probably in the 1920s or 1930s when this was built.
I believe it's 1937.
All right, there you go.
Some staff findings. The applicant is proposing to replace a section of the existing gray asphalt shingle roof with what appears to be R-type metal roofing and striations pre-finished black. The pre-finished black R-type metal roofing with striations matches the existing pre-finished black R-type metal roofing with striations found on the bay window on the west elevation. The specific material proposed by the applicant is 40-year 29-gauge 5-rib AG metal panel roofing. This request is due to continuous water infiltration and damage to the structure. Upon visiting the site, staff observed both the main structure and detached garage have gray asphalt shingle roofs. The only 5V or R-type metal roofing with striations found on the site is on the bay window found in the west elevation of the main structure. According to 37-B of the design review guidelines, roofs of new shingles should approximate the original materials as closely as possible and be appropriate colors such as dark gray, black, brown, or shades of dark red. Red or green may also be appropriate for craftsman/bungalow period buildings. New wood shingles, including new shake shingles, are appropriate for most early 19th century buildings. R-type metal roofing is a type of sheathing not permitted according to the design review guidelines. Staff could not find any historical evidence stating or showing 136 West Valley Street's original roof being R-type.
Okay, so,
Oh,
Wait, there's
excuse me.
another.
a little bit more. The pitch of the front porch portion of the roof appears to be equal to or more than 2 to 12, which by building code is an appropriate pitch for an asphalt shingle roof to shed water off. The roof should have two layers of underlayment underneath the shingles. Staff could not determine if there are 2 layers of underlayment. Due to the specific location on the roof and the type of damage occurring, which is water infiltration, improper flashing could be a cause for the water infiltration as well, possibly.
Okay,
Thank
All
you.
right.
So I'm Scott Siegel. I live right behind us
Yeah.
here at 136 Valley. My wife and I bought the house in 2011. We came before the board in 2012 and requested permission to put the new roof on, which was approved at that time. It was a Certainty landmark 30-year architectural charcoal black shingle. I'm a retired residential contractor,
oh,
so I kind of understand the issues with slope. And for the front porch, which actually is right at 212, we put 2 layers. We put a 30-pound layer of felt, and then the Certainty winter guard, which is kind of an ice and snow membrane underneath that part of the roof. The picture that I handed you, I wanted to show you because I think it kind of clearly demonstrates where flashing isn't a problem. So the red lines there would indicate where you would anticipate to see water if the dormer or the flashing was the issue. But if you actually look on the roof there, it's very dry in that area. Where we're getting water is where the green lines are. And that's where the main portion of water from the entire front of the house flows. So if you're standing in the front yard, like where that picture is taken during a rain, you'll see where the water's coming down. And then you'll see the water pouring in at that area on the front porch. And it's something that's happened over time. It didn't happen like once we put the new roof on in 2012. But 5 years later, we started noticing a little bit, and it's just getting worse and worse and worse. We just spent $1,200 to have it reflashed, which obviously that wasn't the issue, right? My wife made an error when she put the R series metal roofing on the application. What we're actually proposing is a 24 gauge standing seam black roof. And at the same time, the one on the side of the house, if you look at it in the pictures that are in the packet, it appears, and I put a ladder up there and looked at it, it looks like at one point in time, there was a green metal roof on the house. And at some point, the black metal that's currently there was attached over that green. The flashing that's there, you can see that someone attempted to paint that black, and that green is showing through.
So you didn't put the black?
No.
You didn't do that? Okay.
No, that was before we purchased the
Okay.
house. Yep. So we're just trying to solve a problem, kind of a permanent solution. I mean, I'm sorry about the mix-up with
Oh.
the, she had two quotes from the contractor, one with the standing seam and one of the other, she just copied and pasted the wrong one on the application.
Well, that clears up
That
one,
cleared
that
up
clears up
one,
one
yeah.
problem, okay.
But
So-
yeah, we're just trying basically just to cover that front porch area and allow the water to get to the gutter rather than back up onto the porch. And it's actually coming into the living room of the house.
Well, so I have a question
Sure.
then, so because of that, so you don't think it's the flashing from the dormer?
Oh, I know
And
it's
it's
not
coming,
flashing
it's
from the
flowing
dormer.
it's flowing down the roof?
Right.
Is it overflowing the gutter there?
No,
It's going behind the
it's
gutter?
seeping in. So
it's-
there's, the pitch is such that it's almost flat.
Mhm.
I mean, it's bare minimum 212, which for the
Okay.
most, if you looked at any shingle manufacturer recommendation, their minimum slope would be 412. 212 is allowed with very certain circumstances, like the 2 layers of underlayment, a membrane like the winter guard that we put down. Sometimes they'll even require less exposure between runs to prevent water seeping under the shingles. There's just not enough slope to
So
get the
it's-
water
So
to
it's
the gutter.
puddling, it's pooling there, is that what
And
is
it
that what it's
runs
doing?
under the shingles.
It's
yeah.
pooling and then running under the
Yeah.
shingles, because the slope is not big enough?
Right, correct.
Okay, I just was clarifying
Yep.
the problem, so it's a problem.
It is a serious problem, and it's a problem from 1937. And my guess is, like I said, I would be willing to bet that there was a metal roof on that house at one point in time. There's a house down the street. I can show you a picture of similar,
Well,
a
that's it.
similar house
Okay.
that basically has a metal roof. And my guess is that's what this house looked like at one point.
I know where that is.
Can you answer why the metal, changing that part to metal would solve the problem?
Well, the metal won't allow, the problem is water's getting in
It's porous.
between and underneath the shingles,
Okay,
right? So the metal's not going to allow that to happen, right? It's going to force the water and allow it to get quicker to the gutter.
How do you think it's gonna look to have, where's it gonna actually start?
Well, right at the transition.
So you don't think it's gonna look funny to
No.
have asphalt and metal mixed? Do we have that anywhere? in
Yeah,
we
there's
don't-
several
I
houses
don't
like
think-
that on Valley.
With both?
Mhm.
Can you find those, Gabe?
Yeah, and
That becomes the
oftentimes,
issue
it's
now.
oftentimes because of the pitch issue that metal's used, and then shingles will transition up above there.
I mean, and it sounds like you have tried to, because it sounds like the solution would be to put something under it that keeps it from seeping through, or else lifts it a little bit so that the pitch would be enough that it would run off.
Yeah, and unfortunately, you know, raising the pitch gets into the windows on the dormer and things
So
like that.
it would have to raise that much, huh?
Yeah, I mean, to actually get it to where it needs to be.
How much, my next question is, I mean, this would be a problem for us to approve, is the different.
The mixed
The
material.
different material.
Sure.
But how much of this particular area, would you do it all the way across or just between the green lines?
We're proposing doing it all the way across
Okay.
the porch just to be
consistent. And
and,
so how much of that do you envision can be seen from Valley Street?
well, so not very much can be seen from the street itself because it's so flat. The roof itself is
Uh-huh.
extremely flat.
But this roof that you put in 2011,
2012, yes, ma'am.
2012, so it's, even if it were black, it's faded now, and now you're talking of a dark black. I'm worried about a stripe where the materials are really gonna jump out.
Yeah, I don't think that you would notice.
And I don't think he's found
I-
one yet.
I haven't found of any, and I have not seen any, and I've gone up and down Valley Street for different projects. I
Right.
can't even think of one in my head that has that, where there's metal roof on one portion of it and then shingles on another.
Right.
I can't think of one at the
Just
moment.
tell us where they are, where
Do
you've
you know
seen
where
it.
they are? He can probably see this map, we're just driving down the street.
I mean, I'd have to stop. I mean, I stopped and took a picture of the one that I showed you with the metal roof that's similar.
But that was all metal, that roof.
Right.
That's all metal.
Right. Yeah, there's one across the street from that has a metal front porch and then shingles on the,
Across from this one?
right, yeah.
Is there a color of metal that would be more compatible with the shingle
Instead
color?
of black.
That I don't know. I haven't looked at the potential of different colors. I mean, the shingles were a charcoal black is the color that was approved in 2012.
On your house,
Correct.
yeah,
Yep,
which is faded to what it is,
right.
In 20 years.
yeah. I mean, you know, obviously, we're with you wanting to fix the problem.
Right.
But trying to do what we have to do. We've just never approved anything that's a mixed materials. It would make a difference, in my opinion, the amount of it that you can see.
Sure.
And also just, I mean, I'd like for you to, once again, just assure us that there's not a way to keep the asphalt and do something underneath. And I think what you said was that in order to fix that pitch, it would get up into the window, which would not work.
Right, to
visually,
get up to
to get
enough
up that
pitch,
much.
right.
And you've tried.
And because if you look, I can show you just another picture for it, for instance. If you look at this is the house that's next door, actually two brothers built these houses, side by side. The one next door has a smaller dormer, and with that, they're allowed to have probably about a 5/12 pitch on their front porch. You know, the bigger dormer on our house created that structural issue.
Oh, yes, they've made that a much bigger pitch. They're a
Right,
separate
correct.
piece.
But it's all the same material.
But that's because they were able to do that, because
Yeah.
they made this pitch
Right.
so
I
big.
think Gabe found
Can you pull
one.
that house up here?
So there's this one right here, but the thing would be with this seeing is that this porch was probably an add-on at one point or something, whereas this roof is all in one portion of it.
It's not intersecting another roofing material
Yeah.
anyway, so I-
Yeah.
So it's totally separated from the roof line. It's a different roof line, and this was probably added on sometime, so it's not part of the main roof, to say. Whereas this one, it is the main roof.
Yeah, this intersection of the two, of the same roof is an issue.
I'm not sure how much this is actually faded. I think it's the way the light's hitting it, because of these other photos, it's pretty dark. I don't know if that's an issue.
I mean, so with certainty, they had like I can't remember what it's called, it was like a jet black or something like that, about the color of your chairs probably, a little very dark black. And then they had this charcoal black, which was not quite as stark as that. I mean, I guess one thing that conceivably we could do would be to get a piece of the roofing from the supplier, and for, you know, maybe at the next meeting, we could walk over and you could see what that might look like if it was actually, you know, I think since it is right there. I mean, I don't know.
I know
We're
it's-
just trying to figure out a
it
way to
is.
save
It's
the
a
porch.
complex-
It's
it's a
into the
complex
front columns,
problem.
and like I said, it's into our living room now, so it's,
Well, yeah.
It's sort of, we're sort of caught in the middle here because it is a contributing structure. So to change it that dramatically, I think, I can't visualize it looking not jarring, so I'm having a hard time sort of.
Sure, and that's why I suggested
the-
maybe that would be a way to provide a little bit of context, visual, you know, so you could see what that transition.
And you don't think that just replacing asphalt shingle on it would help it? I mean,
For 5 years.
you feel like it has to be a metal?
Well, I think that the asphalt's already proven kind of the duration that we're looking at. It lasted for about 5 years before it started leaking.
If you look at this picture right here, I don't know where that was taken from, but you can see it clearly. You can see all of it. It's very visible. It's not
Okay.
an invisible thing from the street.
Okay.
Of course, I don't know how high up this was, but
It's just across the street.
standing on the curb,
Yeah.
so therefore, that shows you can't, this definitely is
Okay.
visible.
Where's that picture here? So the green lines is where he has the damage. But
Correct,
he's-
that's where the water, like if you're standing on the porch during a heavy rain, you need an umbrella right there.
And it's not your gutters.
No. No, the water's not making it to the gutter.
But there is that little piece of downspout coming down from the gutter on the dormer. And I assume that it's coming down there and then running sort of straight down
Right.
the roof
It's
to where
about
this,
in line.
where the green line is.
Correct.
So you're getting an extra volume of
Yeah,
water
and
there.
we're getting basically each side of that porch is getting half of the front of, each one of those green lines is getting half the water off the
Mhm.
front of the house.
Right. I had a question about there's this detail on the roof that, you know, it's not just a sharp dog leg, there's that curve.
Correct.
And how would that be transitioned, because these metal roofing panels are not really made to curve?
Well, I think that with that limited amount of curve, it's doable. If it was more than that, because you're looking, they've got metal on actual, the facial board right there that they've been able to bend to make that curve
Mhm.
as well.
Of course, the standing seam type is stiffened by the ribs that are on there, so it's
Right.
not probably as easy to bend. So you would still have to have some kind of flashing detail, right, that somehow go under the existing shingles and then flash over
Right, there
the
would
new
have to
metal
be,
roofing.
there would have to be metal, like a metal pan placed up onto the main body of the roof
Right.
where it transitions down, and then, the fortunate thing is we saved 3 square of the original shingles. So if there's a need to do any repair there, we've got the original shingles to do that with.
I think most of those roofing manufacturers offer a pretty wide range of colors. And there's probably I'm not sure I've ever used one, but I think it probably is a charcoal or something that would not be dead black.
Yeah, that would better match it.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's something I haven't looked at.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you have explored thoroughly being able to keep the shingles or replace just this section of shingles with something?
We've spent over $6,000 on
On
just
trying to do
trying
that.
to kind of conquer this front porch water issue. You know, with the flashing, just like I said, we just got through spending $1,200 to reflash something that I knew was not going to do anything.
Would you be adverse to finding some colors that, like you said?
No, not at all.
You'd be okay with a whole nother month of it?
Well, if that's what it's gonna take to solve this problem, another month is not an issue. I just think if we tore off, for instance, if we tore off the shingles, place 2 more layers of underlayment,
Yeah.
reshingle the
Right.
roof, I'd be back here in 5 years, you know, looking to either do the same thing, which that's not really feasible, versus a long-term solution.
This is, could be a rhetorical question, but I need to ask it anyway.
Sure.
Have you considered re-roofing the whole house metal?
We haven't considered that.
Okay.
I mean, I know just to give you an idea, cost-wise,
Yeah.
putting the standing seam on the front porch
Mhm.
area alone is almost $7,000.
Mm.
So if we were gonna do the whole house,
And you don't have any leaks anywhere else?
no.
Questions, comments by the staff?
No, just kind of what I already explained is that, the transition, how Pam pointed out. And I couldn't find any historical evidence saying if it did have a metal roof before, not saying it didn't, but
Right.
I
Yeah,
just couldn't
all I
find
know
any
is if you look,
proof.
if you look at the dormer, or not the dormer, but the pop out there on the side, it kind of, either that was the only thing that had a green roof on it, or the entire, because the house right across the street or catty corner from it has still got a green metal roof, and it kind of wouldn't surprise me if they were done about the same time.
And you're not planning to do anything with the side of the house, that little piece over your porch?
Oh, if we were to do the porch, we would go ahead and redo that as well with the same
standing
metal.
seam.
You know, just saying, because it looks pretty bad. Just as is, it looks, it's kind of a nice look. So I think that cleaning that area up would be appropriate.
Okay.
Are you envisioning the metal starting at the base of that dormer or up higher to catch the
No,
water?
it would be about at the base. It would be almost directly at the base, because that's about where the transition from the main roof to the porch is.
Okay.
Has your roofing company ever done this kind of a project before?
Yeah.
And did they have any pictures, do you think you could find for us of what
I
that
can
would
ask
look
them
like?
that too, sure.
I just am really I'm struggling with visualizing it.
Sure.
The two different materials.
Right,
You
yeah.
know, and
Yeah, just the transition there, yeah.
If at least they could get to be the same, pretty much the same
Yeah.
color.
It sounds like you're gonna probably have to come back, because I don't know that we're prepared to
No, I
make a decision
understand,
on this.
that's not an issue.
Okay. And it would probably be fine if we walked over and looked at it.
It
but,
would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think if
I
we
think
could.
that would be an easy way to see what they're proposing.
Yeah, I'd like to see what they're proposing, maybe a computer-generated model of what it's going to look like finished with the
Okay.
color match, if that's possible.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's our biggest
I
concern.
think that would be difficult,
Yeah.
to get
To match a
something,
match.
to get something that was true to,
But they might
Life.
have some samples of work they've already done. I don't know who you're using, but, can always ask.
I think it'll be more helpful if you could find an alternative color
Okay.
to the black.
Sure.
Something that would blend more with the asphalt shingles that are on there.
Does the back of your house have a roof that does that too, or is it just?
It's actually, the back has more of a pitch, kind of like our neighbor does.
Yeah, I see that separate pitch back
Yeah.
there.
Picture, it's
Yeah,
a-
Oh,
see
yeah,
there it
okay.
is right there.
The dormer's a little bit smaller, and it has more of a pitch. If you see, the back actually goes up a lot higher on
Yeah.
the main part of the roof than the front does.
I wonder if the house originally looked like that on the front too.
Probably.
Yeah, I mean, it looks a lot like the next door house,
Mhm.
like like they were built by two brothers.
Well, appreciate your understanding of the dilemma it gives us.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And we appreciate your dilemma, too. So does this sound like a workable plan that we
It
just,
does, yeah. I
we
mean,
table
like
it
I said,
for-
I haven't explored other color options that they might have, so they might have
Okay.
kind of a dark gray or something like that, and then, we could, get a few pieces and actually put there and be able to see what the transition would look like from different areas.
Okay.
I would
as
say it's a little bit difficult for us to take a meeting and move it to the road. So if you did, I know you had said you had some pieces of your existing shingles left over.
Yeah.
If you were able to make kind of like a storyboard or, show us that even, where you could bring that physically
Okay.
in. I mean, we may be able to go over there, but it's just, we're gonna have to write that in, and
Yeah.
it's just sort of
And it might
it's
be
sort of a
raining.
procedural thing. It's a bit tough to
Well,
go
if
out
it's
onto the
raining, we'll
road.
understand
Well,
your
we've
problem.
done it.
I mean, for sure, I think you'd understand
saying,
that.
We've
Yeah.
actually done it to the Bunn's house. and-
Yeah, I'm
and
just
Mama
saying if
Mia's.
there's a possibility of showing us
Yeah.
just on a
Yeah,
board.
but if not, we can even,
Yeah.
during the week before
Well,
the
we
meeting.
don't have to go as a
Walk by and look at it.
group.
Right.
We
Don't
can
have
go
to go as a
individually.
group.
We
Yeah.
could, we
Yeah.
definitely could do that.
When you're
yeah.
so
Okay.
convenient. But I think that would really help us sort of figure this out, help you figure
Sure.
it out. I mean, we don't need you having water damage inside your
No,
house.
we
I
definitely
hate that
appreciate
you
your
have
problem.
water damage
Yeah.
inside of
I
your
do,
house.
we really do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just wanna work with you to figure out the right solution.
Right,
Well, thank you.
sure, no, I appreciate you.
And I'm glad that you cleared the R thing up, because that was the thing that jumped out at everybody up here.
Yeah, and I didn't notice it, I mean, I wasn't there, I just told her to copy and paste from the estimate that she had, and she picked the wrong one.
That's okay.
That's all right.
And one of the main reasons that those aren't permitted, that type of metal roofing, is that they deteriorate fairly quickly, as you
Right.
probably know, because they're fastened through, and so you have
Correct.
an opportunity for
Leaking.
holes all over the place.
And,
Yeah.
and they start leaking.
And my guess is if we tore off that one on that side, that's what we would find.
Mhm.
That would be my guess, that's probably why they put the black on there.
Okay. All right. Do we need a motion to table it? Okay,
Mhm.
so do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion to table.
Okay. Ms. Bunn has made the motion to table this until next meeting, when we can have a review by the contractor and colors for the metal.
I'll second that.
Mr. Anderson seconds the motion.
Mr. Boyd,
Aye.
Mr. Anderson,
Aye.
Mrs. Hartshorn,
Aye.
Mrs. White,
Aye.
and Mrs. Bond.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Siegel.
No, thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, where are we on our agenda?
I think we're done.
No, I think we
Okay,
need to talk about those.
we have, we don't have any public
Yep,
here to
that
have
was a
comments.
That was the work session.
All right, now, any
talk
old
about the
business on the
historic
agenda?
preservation?
to talk
No,
about?
we need to talk about the, what are those things called?
The-
Waivers.
The waivers, that's
I
what,
have
that's what we're on
Okay.
right now.
Oh,
So
okay.
Gabe is gonna review the waivers with us.
So 102 North Court Street, that's the cluster box installation.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I had many conversations with the applicant for that one, and there was no way of putting it inside, just based on security issues that they would have to have a lock.
Security,
Yeah,
is
so
that what you were referring to, Mr. Boyd?
For the look.
I'm referring to the fact that the size isn't specified.
should be in there.
I
in
can't
your-
find that, and I can't find the color. But
Should
beyond
be.
that, I just think it's gonna be a big ugly
Yeah.
thing
Well, the beautiful
in
It's
one of the
just
most
so-
attractive parts
Oh,
of
I
that
know, it's a
building.
beautiful building. that
And I think
we-
it, sorry,
Yes, it's just a beautiful building now.
and I think it will be visible, it's gonna be poking out one side or the other of that column, in spite of what the note says on the drawing. Where is that?
It's behind,
It's,
It's a continual on COA
Number
three, go
one.
to the very back. It's extra pages. It
Right.
doesn't have its own page.
Okay.
Waiver.
See, because that's an L-shaped here, that column.
It's somehow
It's
got
right
its.
after.
And if it's where this red rectangle is, it's gonna be very
Oh,
visible.
right.
to,
Right.
COA three.
I just, I'm sorry that there's not a legal way to have it hidden inside the
Yeah,
lobby of the
I looked at that
building.
too, about, that's what I was looking at, is it's just so big and visible outside on this really pretty building now.
So, and we tried to make sure that it wasn't connected to the building at all.
But it's
So-
there.
It's there, and there is unfortunately nothing in your guidelines that has review over cluster boxes.
do we
I've
have,
never even
a-
heard that term
do
before.
we have other cluster boxes? in the historic district?
No, not necessarily, but there's nothing that says that they can't though.
Well,
So,
So Gabe, you said the size is shown there somewhere, I couldn't find anything
yeah,
that gave
should be in the
size.
specs here, but I pulled up the specs too.
And you
It says
said the
that you-
reason that it can't be put inside, just inside the door there, is the owners thought there was a security issue with that?
Yeah, so they would not be able to, they would have to leave a key for the postal service, but then they would have to worry about the elevator being used if somebody went in, or if they just kept it
Oh.
unlocked, somebody would have access to the elevator, the possible first floor.
Oh, okay.
So there's a lot of security issues, and I talked to the applicant first because that was kind of my first thinking as well, to put it inside,
Yeah.
kind of near, on the opposite wall of the elevator.
Yeah,
But as more and more we talked, it just didn't become an option. That just wasn't an option for them in a sense. So we try to look for the best option where it's out of the way, it meets ADA compliance, and then if it was to get removed, it's not attached to the building or the pier that's there.
is it put, in your opinion, is it going to be placed in the least visible place?
Yes.
corner.
I don't think there is a least visible place.
I know.
Well,
If-
it's so big.
If we're thinking about least visible, that is the least visible spot, because we've talked about other places where it would go right in front of the window, and I said, no, that wouldn't work because you're obstructing the view of the building. Let's try to find another way, and then we kind of came up with putting it behind the pillar as much as possible. So you would still see it, but that's the least visible option, and you're not infringing on the view of the building and its elevations to say, so you're not obstructing the view.
So can I ask you, do they actually have 16 tenants that need a mailbox there?
I think they're filling up. I'm not sure how many they have, but they are filling up. And each one in those, as you maybe remember from our preservation day when we toured that, I think each one on that second floor is a different office for somebody in some way or
So
fashion.
there's potential for that.
There's potential for it, so.
I'm assuming that this little sort of faded drawing, it looks like it's probably where the dimensions are given.
So here on the
To
next
the
page,
left of USPS.
the next page has them here where it says unit size, 30 inches, 30 and a half inches wide, 62 inches high.
Could it be placed
Okay, I missed.
kind of at,
It's kinda
that
hidden
is an
there.
L, kind of like more of an catty corner against the L so it doesn't stick out as much?
So I asked about that as well, and because it's the width of it so big, it wouldn't fit in the L, so it'd have to be outside of that kind of cutout, and then it's obstructing the ADA compliant
So,
section of it. So that's why we
I thought
had
the
it,
same thing.
Okay.
that's why we had it going
Okay.
parallel to East Main, is this way it's not infringing on the ADA compliant or accessible route, because on the Main Street side, the curb is elevated. On the Court Street side, as you go further up towards that corner, the concrete pad, that's kind of the entrance or lobby entrance of it,
Mhm.
and the brick sidewalk level out. So that's the ADA compliance route. So we
Okay.
can't block that one, and I went out and did measurements for that after trying to figure, okay, if this is the only spot, let's see if there is
Uh-huh.
any obstructions that wouldn't allow it.
I'm trying to
And so
count
this is the only place that it
the,
would.
brick courses here on that. It looks like it's 3 brick
across.
across on parallel to Main, which would be about 2 feet.
It says 30
And-
inches somewhere.
It's, yeah, it's
Let me get down there.
30 and a half, so it would be,
Would they,
it's gonna stick out 6 or 8 inches.
would they consider
No,
doing
it's-
anything like they have at the library next to the front door for the return book slot, where it opens up and you put the mail in there and close it up, and no one can rob that? I mean, and the library keeps a bin on the other side of the door for the books that come in, but they have the pull-down slot attached to the building. It's to the left of if you wanna pull the library up, and it's built into the building at least. I don't know if we wanna do, but it's unobtrusive.
That wouldn't provide individual boxes.
Yeah,
so-
but they could sort their own mail. I mean,
Well-
when you live in an apartment in New York City or something, you get your mail thrown on the floor and you just pick it up. I mean, it's not,
I imagine the tenants would balk at that.
Or the owner.
well, I'm just trying to come up with a solution that's a little better looking.
Let's see.
No, back up.
Oh, this, right in
It's
the
to
front.
Well,
right
did you
at
see
the
a
front
color
door.
given?
Go to where the flag
I'm not
is.
sure which color they.
And go zoom into the front door.
I mean,
You may not be able to
the
get,
trim
see, okay, see
is all
that?
white there.
Yeah, there it is on the wall to the left.
It's on the wall to the left, under the, under the sign with the
Yeah, it's
push
right
on,
here.
all right, see, it's just a metal slot. They keep a bin behind it, so when the books come in during the night or when the library's closed, they go into that bin and then you can get your, they they take the
Mhm.
books. So it is part of the building, but it doesn't bother, I mean, it doesn't stick
I
out.
think if I were a tenant and had a box like that, I would not like my mail to be shuffled in with everybody else's.
Okay, I was just trying to come
What-
up with
what about
something that
around
would look better than
backside?
this.
Is there
Well-
anything
This is
around
just
There's no
really,
room.
Well, also,
I
this,
agree.
this one doesn't penetrate the building either, I mean, it keeps the
Right.
building itself. There's not really a great solution,
No.
you've probably sorted it
Yeah.
out as well
I
as you
mean,
can.
And the reason for, they can't really have this sort of box is because it has to be approved by the US Postal Service. So this might not be an option that the US Postal Service will deliver mail to.
Good.
The cluster box isn't approved.
the US Postal Service
Repository.
brings mail and just throws it on my front porch because I
So.
don't have a box. I'm just saying.
Oh, no, no,
Yeah.
I'm just saying that might be a
Yeah.
reason too, so I try to work it out as best as possible, so it wouldn't be on the outside, but as the more and more we talked, the more and more we went through it, that seemed to be the best way where it could be reversible in a sense. Obviously it is seen, but there's nothing in our guidelines that say you have purview over cluster boxes or mailboxes of any sort.
Does it have to be that color, that bright silver? Can they do like a?
It doesn't say what color it is.
Yeah,
I think it was just that one.
I mean,
Oh.
Could they spray paint it a different color? is what
it
you're
Yeah,
should at
you're
least
asking if
be
you
the
could spray
color
paint
of
it.
the bricks.
The colors here are listed, you could have black, dark bronze, postal gray, forest green, and white. It's here.
I mean, I would think a color of the bricks would be maybe an option they would consider.
Could we, Gabe, could we see that Main Street facade,
Sure, it might not help you too much because
cars?
the imagery has that of,
Yeah, it's not updated. It's got
it's got
the old
the
Oh,
whole,
coverage.
Well, I mean, this picture right here shows
Yeah, where the
shows that, I
skull
mean, it
is.
could be white and go with the rest of
I
it.
want, like, I'm just trying to see the whole side of the
Okay.
building. Is there anywhere it could go there,
Got you.
I was
without-
asking him the same thing.
without
He
poking
said there-
into-
Yeah.
an ADA violation?
Would it fit, I mean, this would be on the outside, but I think that, would it fit on the side of this? I mean, I just don't like how it's sticking out of that
On the side of what?
section. Like, so here's the column, like, would it fit there on the, I mean, it would be on the outside, but it
But then
would be
it would-
facing Court Street. It wouldn't be facing Main.
To me, that's just as visible.
I
mean,
know.
It's probably more visible.
Just as objectionable.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Oh, it
okay, I
has to
forgot
be.
about it.
Can
I
you
just-
pick a different date there, Gabe? I don't know.
let's see.
Yeah, go back 5 years.
I just
It
wondered
won't be
if,
the same, but it kinda, there you go.
Yeah, so,
I mean, they've put those different windows in, but
Right.
yeah, so,
Oh, it
go back and
looks so
look at
good
it more
now.
from Maine.
go on like this end, Payne, or?
I mean, how does Penn Street?
Yeah, sort of more dead on if you could on that previous one that doesn't have this,
Of
the
course, that's all just.
walkway.
There we go.
Could it go,
Huh?
they've put that stair there, could it go
Yeah,
against
I know
that pilaster? Next to where the stair was added?
That would be on the sidewalk, and we already said no to that, because this building goes right up to its property line,
Well, the stair pokes out further than that.
and that's an easement after, so they would have to go through an
Do we have any other
easement.
multi-tenant businesses on Main Street that would, that we could see how they get there?
We have other ones, but they're in smaller amount of tenants, and so they have, so for example, you probably won't be able to see it, but, this one has mailboxes inside, but there's only like 2 tenants in here. Right here, as you can see.
Or the next one over
And
too.
the one to the left has like 4, it looks like little boxes.
Yeah, or
right
4,
there.
so, this one's the one that has a mass amount of tenants to say, and so that's why they're needing so many mailbox slots, is because the amount of tenants that they're gonna have in that building, which this building is probably, aside from the courthouse, the biggest one on that block, I would say. And And so this picture might not show it, but just ask about the ADA compliance. So just imagine this wall's bumped out. This is where they've brought up the brick, so this is the ADA compliance route, and this is still elevated. So doing the measurements, when, as Mrs. Bunn asked about doing kind of it popping out or in the L-shaped, the width of the cluster box is so long that it won't fit in that bump out, and so you have to put it outside. So once you put it there, it blocks the ADA compliance route. And so that's when we went with putting it perpendicular. Yes, it sticks out, but it is ultimately reversible. So let's just say somebody comes by and they don't mind putting it inside. Let's just say 10 years.
Yeah.
It can be easily removed. Whereas if you put it next to the building, next to the brick, next to the foundation, there is a high possibility that it could be damaged when somebody's taking out the cluster box.
What could be damaged?
Either the bricks in
The
some way,
building.
the building itself.
The building
So
itself, right.
obviously it's on this kind of open space lobby on the cement block, on the cement pad. It wouldn't be as much of a danger in a sense if it was to be removed.
Well, you said that the stair had to have
An easement.
Yeah, they
an
went,
easement from the town,
yeah, they went in front of the town council and requested an easement
and
for that.
would it not be possible to request an easement to put it, say, in front of that first pilaster, first one from the corner? The first one from the corner.
The one down here.
This
That
one?
That one.
I would have to think these come in all sorts of sizes, and can't we, they don't?
It's a standard size pretty much. I asked if he could look up a unique size where it would fit into the
Yeah.
bump out.
What are other historic?
It's more of this is what it is, and they don't make any custom size, and he looked it for him,
Who gets mail anymore?
so. But I tried to figure out if it could be fit into that kind of cutout of the pillar. They don't make custom boxes that could fit there. And then, so we were left with that one, and then it comes down to blocks ADA compliance when it's put at a diagonal. Once again, we don't have any guidelines that have you review any mailbox placement or cluster boxes, so there's nothing that says that they can't put it there or they can't have it outside.
Boy, I hate to set this precedent.
Well, at least it is completely reversible. And
Yeah.
as time goes by, and another solution might be found. I mean, not that I think it's a great thing either. It jumped out at me too, well, that's why I said, can it be put inside?
Yeah, and that was my first,
Yeah.
that was my first question to the applicants. Can you put it inside? And we
Maybe-
try to look for it, they try to look into it, and the answer was just they couldn't do it based on
Would you ask them if they
security.
would consider a different color?
Yeah,
on
like
this
maybe like the
picture-
bronze or like
Mhm.
the black
Bronze
or
even
something. I
would be
mean,
good. Yeah, that-
because it would sort of match the lights.
Yeah.
That's something we can definitely go back to and
That's-
ask them, if you are willing to ask that of them, to have it be bronze.
Well, it sounds to me like we have to approve something like this, so.
The aluminum, or whatever color that is not even listed as one of the colors. The
So-
standard color is sandstone, whatever that is,
Mhm.
tan, I guess. Black, dark bronze, postal gray, forest green, and white. All of the trim in there is white.
The trim is white, and then the base of that column is sandstone.
But it's gonna poke out 6 or 8 inches either way, either leg of that pilaster or column you put it on.
So it would bump out a little this way, but as I mentioned, and it was kind of brought up about, was there any other place that would be the least visible? This was the one that was the least visible, because if you put it on, let's just say.
What about if you put it on, go down this way, where they said the easement? What about the steps right there? Is there any, like, right in there, like?
So
The
the-
right or left of that door.
Yeah, is that,
That's the
They'd have to
step.
they have to go back to a town council and ask for a whole easement.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if the owner, that would be the owner's choice. I mean, if we express our discomfort with putting it where it is and suggest that they might look into that.
Well, it might be just as visible and in a negative way right there in front of you on Main Street.
I don't think it would.
I think it looked
That doesn't
better
bother
there.
me as much as it's sticking out
And if it
from
were
that.
And I'm gonna
bronze
tell you-
color, it would blend a lot better.
Yeah, I just think that's a good spot. I mean, you know, well, I work at the tavern, and that tree right there, when that tree's out, I mean, you can hardly see that door, hardly,
Yeah.
like if you're passing by, but I think that right in between that gap right there, either to the, I think would be on the right side.
To the
would be-
right?
To the right would be the best, to me,
What are
but
our options here, Michael?
Well, are there steps going down
Just
here?
really
there
isn't-
is steps
You
going
know,
down
this is
now.
away
So you'd
from
have to
it,
avoid the
so
steps,
it's already-
They're just
right?
right in front of the door.
Yeah,
But we can ask for
But they go
color change.
down.
it's a different look.
You could,
now,
I just
but-
don't
Oh,
know
yeah.
if these are
Oh,
like
it's
10
because-
weeks out, like they've
Yeah,
already.
Yeah, they got
They go
rails
down
on
that
it.
I think
high.
if the
Stuff
waiver,
down.
I think the
It's
waiver
different
shouldn't have
from
been
the way it was
granted
posted on
with
there
this
now.
many different.
But I just don't think there's anything in that gap right
Issues.
there. I mean, you could even put a whole.
Before we had a
pole
chance to
up,
discuss
put
it.
it on the pole right there beside that.
And so the problem is with putting the mailbox right next to the stairs would be you're blocking an exit route then.
It is, that's a fire escape too, I know that's.
The stair comes
now
straight
it's a
down.
fire escape.
No,
Comes down the sides.
it comes down the sides now.
Yeah.
So this is not the current stair.
Oh, you're, okay.
You,
right,
they
yeah.
came and asked you about putting stairs on
Right.
kind of a landing, and then they have a dual stair going down. So if you put the box on either side of that stairwell, you're blocking an exit, and that's a building code after problem, and that's a fire code problem after.
Gotcha.
So that's why we went with behind the column as much as possible, because one, it's not obstructing the view of the overall building. Whereas if we put it on either Main Street or, let me get over
Court
Court Street, it would literally be blocking a window. And the point we were trying to get at was it'll be the least visible of all the spots that were available. And it's probably the least likely to have damage if it was to be removed. Whereas there was an option they brought up one time about possibly putting right here in front of the window. That was one thing, and it's on the stone that's there, and I said that's not gonna work.
Color will be important, choosing the right color for it.
I don't know how this sounds, but you see the mailbox right there?
Mm-hmm.
How about something like away from the building by that mailbox? Is that copacetic or is that not cool?
Well, they do that in neighborhoods. They're
Yeah,
just
you see
sitting
the
out, yeah.
mailbox, if you go back to where it's on Main Street, maybe not this picture, but another picture,
Go back.
you'll see the
and-
mailbox. Like, I don't know if you could, if that would,
Yeah,
Yeah.
put it there.
Yeah,
That mailbox is
yeah.
gone.
yeah, right there.
The mailbox is gone.
Oh,
I
right
think
here.
so.
The mailbox is gone, but that slab is still there, and you could
Yeah.
you could do a nice
Bronze
color-coded
color.
bronze thing right there. I don't know. I don't know about
Yeah, I
that.
mean, that's already been approved by the Postal Service, right?
Yeah, 'cause it has to be approved, 'cause they put they put that
Right.
concrete slab right there. It's not, you know, so, I don't know. But that's away from the building, you know, it's not attached to the building, it's on the sidewalk. I mean, if a mailbox, if you could put mail in the box there, it looks like you could receive it,
I
I
mean,
think.
the town is so proud of this building, and anything that takes away from the beauty of it is really gonna, I think,
Mm.
affect. I mean, the overall look of that, it's just turned out so well.
Yeah. I mean, I like Dwayne's idea, and then I like what Peyton said, next to that pilaster on the left.
Yeah.
That's kind of a blank little section, if you could just put it against,
Right here.
There's
you
just a
know,
stair-
at
The
the
first
front.
one, the
The
first
other
one.
side,
Oh, this one?
yeah.
Just right there on that blank wall to the left of that, right
So
there.
it's.
That doesn't exist anymore like that.
Yeah.
No,
No.
no. This is all open.
Oh, that's all open.
Yeah, so that's
Okay.
why there was really no spot unless you put it on the building, which that was a no-go.
Okay.
Or you put it on part of the, I guess, the water table is what I would call it, so this is what I would call the water table, this kind of the limestone base. Or it's putting on top of there on the other side, and that was a no-go, since you're getting very close to the windows and everything, so.
So you've got windows, you've got handicap accessibility, you have a fire escape with 2 stairs, so,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, Gabe measured and
I think I triple-checked, and I took Rick Statzer out there, who's our
Yeah.
building official, just to make sure that I wasn't missing anything. And so, I understand it's probably not the best place that we would like, the most ideal would be inside, but given the security problems that would arise with that, this was probably the least visible spot, that would be the easiest to reverse.
Well, comment on, was that where the mailbox is right there? Was that a consideration at all from anybody?
They asked to put it on the sidewalk, but I said no, because this mailbox is for a private residence. This mailbox is for general use.
Okay,
So that's another issue that could arise, where the mailbox that they're wanting to put would just be for that business.
oh, okay,
This is a more general one, where it's anybody could drop off a package or anything in that.
okay.
And once again, they would have to go through an easement process, which it could get granted or it could get not, depends on what they deem is appropriate. And there have never been private mailboxes in the sidewalk before. So that's why we tried against that, because once you open up that can of worms, or the precedent for it, everybody's gonna want a cluster box on the sidewalk, whether it's in the OH or on Valley, or on any
I got
other
you.
part of the town.
I got you.
So,
Yeah,
That does
makes
that
sense, it makes sense,
yeah.
Kate.
Did they consider just getting post office boxes?
I asked that too, and he said it would just be they want the mail there at their tenants, so that's fine.
I think you've explored
Yeah.
all of the
Yeah.
possibilities.
I tried as best I could, since I kind of already had an
Uh-huh.
inkling and an idea, since we kind of think of the
Yeah.
same mind, that, but I went every avenue, and then this was the absolute last resort.
What is in between this building now on further down? Is there a space in between that house and is there a space in there?
That's their.
garden.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
is there a fence, there's a fence up there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All
so this
right.
is not their property right
So
now.
I
that's-
got you.
That's not a possibility.
Gotcha.
And then on Court Street's the William King house that abuts right up to the building.
So it boils down to the fact that it's gonna be, the color is gonna be really important.
Yeah, so that's something that you could
What-
ask.
What does the post office consider their address? Because if they consider it Main Street, does the box have to be on Main Street?
I think that's Court Street, if you ask me.
I don't know,
So,
the Summers Building
It's
address.
201 East
yeah,
Main
it's
Street.
201 East Main.
East Main, so does the mail have to be delivered to East Main? On a Main Street location? Are you allowed to change the street name of where you're dropping off the mail? I don't think you are.
Where are you suggesting it be then?
I don't know, but I'm just saying, I think if you want your mail, if your address is East Main, they're looking for a mailbox on East Main. If your address is Court Street, they're looking for a mailbox on Court Street. It's just like when you do the 911 addresses. They go to the address of the actual building, not, I mean, we're saying we can put it there, but what is their actual mailing address? I think that needs to be considered.
I think they're using 201 East Main Street as my own set, so.
Well, that's not where that front door is.
That's been the address. Rick has done all the addressing, so
Yeah.
I can double check and.
And there's another door that, they have two doors technically, one's on this side of it, the other one faces Main Street, so they do have a door that faces East Main. It's just, this picture, I know, understand it's a little hard to understand because so many things have changed, and the one that we would have that showed what it looks like is covered by the
The
walkways.
scaffolding.
And I'm like Miss Hartshorn too. If it's that big of a deal and they know it's that big of a deal, why not get a post office box?
What are they using now?
Yeah.
It's getting dropped off to the property manager's office, every piece of mail for every tenant. So,
And they don't wanna continue that.
no.
Then my thing would be, I almost say, well, if you don't like this, you need to get a P.O. box. I mean,
Yeah.
I just don't understand the security aspect. You have to go in that lobby for the restaurant.
well, I'm gonna tell you, I'm a frequent flyer there at nighttime. And one of my big questions is like, when I go in there, it's usually 11:45. And I'm going to the rooftop for a drink. But I can get on that elevator and I can stop at any floor.
Yeah,
And we have, and you can literally get off and
walk around.
Walk
and-
around.
Well, so
'Cause
you're,
I
in
take the
case
steps
you're a
down.
shady
I've
character.
taken the
yeah, I
I'm
mean,
taking the steps down, and
anybody
there's no
can,
security
anybody
there.
can get on the
Yeah.
elevator and, I
Well,
mean.
I don't think that security, is really valid considering that is a late night. Then I
Yeah.
walk down the steps after dinner,
Hmm.
and I
Yeah.
don't go down the elevator.
Me either.
That's because it takes
Okay, so when you walk
Because it's
down,
too
an hour to
small
get
steps
there.
in.
Oh,
Brooke,
okay.
Brooke, when you walk down the steps, can you see the, you know, I've never used the steps there, I always take the elevator, so can you,
You just come down to
You
the
can
floor.
get out from any floor,
On
walk
any
around.
floor.
yeah, I know you can do that on the elevator, but I just didn't know if you could do that
Yeah,
on the
steps, yep, just open.
It's
There's
open,
no-
it's
it's
not a
open.
fire stair.
In fact, to get to the first floor, you have to get down the stairs and then walk across the building and go down that steep flight. So you're on that second floor.
So there would be no way that the mailman could get a key to access to go through that door to put the mail where it needs to go?
Well, I don't know if,
That would solve the problem.
Yeah, it just, the only person that has a key to it would be the post office, or, I don't know.
It also depends on packages like FedEx and everything too, so getting to, like it's a late night, they do deliver on Sundays sometimes and it might not be open, so.
but the size for these packages, I don't know what the businesses are going in there, but the size of these packages, not every package they receive is gonna fit in that little.
Well, probably none of them are.
So I don't think that's a valid argument.
I don't either.
I mean, my daughter has one of these where she lives, it's on a different street, and they had to, when she gets a package, half the time, they have to go find a post office and pick it up, because it does not fit in there. And she doesn't get big packages, she's residential. But I'm just thinking, I don't know how this got to this point without us ever hearing about this. I mean, how was that just a waiver?
Because there's nothing in our guidelines that say you have purview over mailboxes or cluster boxes, so it's a waiver. That's what it boils down to, is just, there's no purview over this type of equipment.
So that needs to be added when we do it.
So.
Well, I don't think we can solve the owner's issues here. I mean, I think the only thing we can comment on is the color, and I think we just need to do that. Find out what color they intend and comment on it.
What do you think, Lyon?
Well, yeah, when Gabe and I went through round and around and around, we just didn't see any evidence that you all would have the ability to comment on a mailbox. A mailbox on an individual lot, a mailbox in the, like, again, like Ms. Bunn has indicated, this is one of the things we need to add to our code. Just like last night, we added to ensure that vape shops and tobacco shops and shops like of that nature aren't in the Oldham Historic District, but up until this point, when we got challenged on one not too long ago, where they came in and wanted to put a marijuana store right in the historic district, and Mr. Cochran and I said, no, absolutely not, and denied the business license, and then came in and drafted something to put in the code to make sure that couldn't happen. But I mean, you're never going to think of all the things,
Yeah.
and so
Oh,
we
right.
don't have any language that says the HPRB reviews mailboxes. Now, if it
Well-
was attached to the building, at that point you review it because it's now something that's part of the building, but in this case, yeah, and I mean, you would think that just them themselves, which is the first thing I said to Gabe, like, why do they want this in front of
Right.
their building?
They're so proud of this.
Yeah, that
building.
was the first question, but we've also had to tell them, I know, the whole late night crowd, we've had to tell them to please move their smoking, like where people throw their cigarette butts, down away from the door, because we had complaints from, people in the community about how that whole front area is just littered with cigarette butts. So I mean, you know, it's funny what things do
Yeah.
matter and then what things don't,
And I've
so.
got the wind about that, and I think that that was the employees that were
Yeah.
smoking. And I think that they're not allowed to, from what I gather, smoke at that.
We kind of
anymore.
asked for that to change.
And I
because we
think that
got
they are
community
pushing that, and
complaints.
it is kind of
Yeah.
working out, but.
Yeah,
what-
it's just one of those, as you can see, it's a very awkward, there's not a good solution for any of the locations.
It's an awkward issue.
And you say there's how many clients in there, Gabe? How many people
16.
receive, 16?
That
It's
box
growing.
has 16 spots and 2 package spots.
It's growing, they still have to fill spots, so.
So, well, that's my question then, is this big enough? Because are they gonna decide in 6 months that they wanna double the size of this? Because they have more mail than they expected.
If it was to be doubled, then the size would increase, and that would probably put them over the ADA compliance, so that would probably kick it to a no. Since that was gonna be, I went to measure it just to see if that was one requirement that would even kick it out of this current location, and it just fits in. If it gets any bigger, which would increase the overall dimensions of the whole thing, then we're talking it would probably wouldn't be allowed because it's blocking the ADA compliance route. So I wouldn't worry about that so much because the ADA compliance requirement would not allow that.
I just think that maybe if we could talk to them and maybe convince or persuade everybody to get a post office box. It's just not gonna work. I mean,
I don't even know how much mail people get anymore.
I get mail.
Okay.
I get a lot of
Of course,
mail.
that's not
I
our,
mean-
our,
No, I'm just
our
saying,
issue.
do
From
we
residential,
need,
you
does
know.
it need to have this, does it need to even be this big?
Yep.
Okay.
He looked at custom ones too. I asked him, is there any way that you can get a custom one that
Right.
fits perfectly
Right.
into the cutout?
To fit into that cutout and have a bronze color, and we wouldn't even
Nope.
see it?
Nope.
There's no way?
There's no custom.
Or is that just this, with this company? I mean, they really did research?
No,
Well-
I did research too
Okay.
because I know I live in an apartment complex and they have cluster boxes, so I'm like, let me see if there's any different
Yeah.
variations. It's pretty
They're
much,
all the same size,
Pretty
right? I
much.
cannot believe that.
or there are different variations depending on the number of people in a sense, but they're all pretty much the same size where it's like, this is what you get. There is not a lot of variation when it comes to this design because it's something that's just a standardized thing in most cases.
Well, at least it's not attached to the building anywhere, so it's reversible. I mean, is there any way it can be, it can be granted in a temporary way, like X number of years while another
I
solution?
feel like they've already granted it, right? Did
It's
they?
a waiver, yeah, and that's not
So
really
it's
a
done?
temporary thing because we really don't know
Uh-huh.
when they would think about changing it up or when another person would maybe take over the property. So we can't really put a time on it in a sense because there's just so much uncertainty on that front.
So, once again, we're just left with the color.
Yeah.
I mean, I would like you to ask them to consider a different color.
Okay.
I mean, it obviously,
We
it
always
seems
like-
like
We don't know what the color is.
We all,
He
yes,
said
we
it
all
was-
just would like color.
Okay.
Where does it say that?
Well, I thought he just said it was this color.
He
But
did, it's right there.
the aluminum
The gray
It's right
Florence.
there.
Yeah.
What?
The gray Florence, I
It'd be
think
this
that's just the
color right here,
picture
wouldn't
That's
that's
just,
here.
Would it be
I don't,
that
you know,
color?
And where
it says
does-
gray Florence, Western mailbox.
It's
Gray
probably that
Florence.
postal gray.
Yeah, which is,
You're actually, this one is actually not in the waivers, it's actually behind the last staff report, so you kind of went too far.
Okay. 5?
Just all the way back to, there you go.
didn't he used to be on this one?
Somewhere on here, but it's not this one specifically. It's not the white one, it's more of a gray color.
Like the regular gray,
Yeah.
like the postal gray.
Yeah.
Florence is probably the style.
I think a bronze would look nice,
And
if we could
gray
even
is the
just sort of
color
put
that's
them in
listed
if they
here.
do that.
Postal
I
gray.
mean, they don't have to do it, I guess, but,
Yeah.
because it's not attached,
Yeah.
but it would look nicer.
Yeah, so that was just, as my honest kind of mentioned, there was no easy solution.
No, it doesn't sound
And-
like
Yeah,
it. It
there's
sounds
not.
like you
I
have
mean, it sounds
explored
like
it
you've done your
thoroughly.
job.
And there
So-
was,
Yeah.
and as you know, well, later on tonight, we'll be talking about revising the guidelines. I've had a few that have come up that I would like to add that,
Mhm.
you know, wasn't on there. This is one of them,
Mhm.
along with railings that have come up a lot. So
Mhm.
we do have some that I have in mind that I've kind of
Okay.
created a list that we want to add, where it's these kind of special issues that have come up to help give more clarity further on down the road. But at this moment, there is no language that says you have purview over it, so it's a waiver. And then we went with, first it was, can you put it inside? Answer was no.
Okay.
PO boxes, answer was no. And then they wanted to put it either somewhere on the building in some way or another, and I said, that won't work, because then you're really infringing on, I'm just gonna say, the integrity of the building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you're creating more of a point of, where your eyes will catch the box instead of looking at the structure. This, it does pop out a little bit, which is unfortunate, but it's still more reversible than anything else that would be there. And it's probably the most hidden than any of the other options,
Considering all.
considering all the other
Yeah.
factions that go into the ADA compliance,
Yeah.
all
And I
that
like the
stuff.
fact that it's reversible.
Yeah.
So-
It does say that it's available in six styles and sizes, so there are other sizes.
They probably already ordered it, haven't they?
Probably, yeah,
Yeah.
but, like, I went with the applicant through all the different ones and everything, and there just wasn't an easy option. This was the best one out of all of them.
Why don't we move on?
Yeah, I mean,
All right.
it's a shame.
Oh, I thought we were finished. We're not.
Oh, no, we got-
Work session.
I mean, move on from this topic.
Oh, our work session.
Mm.
think we've just done a lot of work.
So, 150 West Main Street, that's Martha, if you have any questions for that one.
Just
No.
replace the note.
217 West Main Street, that's, Grico's, just replacing the roof.
It's underway now.
And it's just asphalt shingles for asphalt shingles.
I did see that today.
Yeah.
And actually, you know, the bonfire back there, it looks pretty good behind the bonfire right now. I don't know what all they're doing back there, but have you seen that Mayana? It looks really nice. I know that's, doesn't have anything to do with what we're talking about today, but I think it looks great back there. I actually seen that today as well as Rico.
And then the last waiver is 234 West Valley Street. They're looking to replace the roof on the entrances, and that was more, when I asked for a picture, it's more of just a flat sheet metal that's soldered together.
Where's,
The one that, see the green? Did you-
Yeah.
Yeah.
whose house is that?
That's the Washington County Extension Building, I believe,
Oh,
one of
yeah.
those, so it's just matching what's already there.
Yeah.
It's just replacing it because it is very rusted and pitted.
Okay.
So,
That mailbox was the only thing I had a question about. All right.
okay, so adjournment and then work session. So we need a motion for adjournment.
Do we have a motion to adjourn? I bet we have several.
I'll put that in motion.
Ms. Bun moves to we adjourn.
I'll second.
Hartshorn to second.
Mr. Boyd,
Aye.
Mr. Anderson,
All right.
Mrs. Hartshorn,
Aye.
Mrs. White,
Aye.
and Mrs. Bunn.
Aye.
Okay.
Okay, we are adjourned.